All right, hello everyone. Not a normal snow talk for today, as we are in a alert day type setup here today with some snow that's heading our way. Some snow being the key word, so I want to get right into it. As this will be a little bit more of a different theme, and mainly focus, by the way, on this event. I'll give you some long-term data that I can do here in a second, but again, most of this is going to be short-term, and a chance for you to also ask some of your questions while I've got you guys with me here today. All right. So it's about 52 minutes after the hour here. Cloudy starts the day. As always, you guys can comment on Twitter, on Facebook, as well as on YouTube for this event. Again, not a major ordeal. It's more about perhaps some slick roads developing, but more so in the latter half of the period versus the front end of the setup. All right. So good morning to Ellen. See that you're on here. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to Kathy, Adam over into Bloomington. Big snow for Bloomington? Yeah, no, I don't know what your biggest has been so far there at IU campus, but I would say there, you're mainly Gibson County, right? That area close to it. You're mainly, I would say a 2-inch snowfall for you, maybe a little more. I'll show you that in a second. So hang tight. Everyone's going to have snow amounts. I promise I'm going to get to the snow map in just a second. All right. Chris, morning. Let it snow. Kentucky girl. Good morning. All right. Everyone's on already. So I want to give a moment for all the notifications to go out. It's on the Wave Weather app. Again, have that app because sometimes our social media pushes that go out. I have no control over that, but sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. So it's always good to have the app as a backup because that will always hit your phone with that notification. Okay, enough me rambling here. Let's get into it. Here's that live view. This is from New Albany, looking toward the Ohio River at the moment. And we have that overcast sky. Got cold this morning. Last night, this morning, I should say, we're 37. Louisville dipped to about 35. And that was basically the benchmark that I was going for with this system on whether or not we would end up with a longer period of rain versus snow. It was right at the threshold. I was bouncing off as a number in my head yesterday at 35. If we went lower than that, I was going to be a little more excited about the snow idea for Louisville. If we were higher than that, I was going to be going more rain. Well, we ended up right at the mark. So I'm kind of mixed emotions right now. It's likely going to be both, which kind of fits the forecast. Indiana, certainly, you guys have cooled down to we're near the freezing mark now. I don't think you're going to climb a whole lot today. So Indiana has a really good shot at an accumulating snowfall taking place here in a matter of hours. Kentucky, much more of a challenge. You have some high clouds, but they're thin. And the sun is even trying to come out in some of these, a hazy sunshine, especially in our southern counties. That nearly locks you in on this being rain and maybe even some small thunderstorms, nothing severe, but maybe some lightning and thunder that can develop before you see the changeover. So the challenge with that is the snow map for your area, because you will get cold like everyone else will, but how much is left by the time that happens? And the bonus to that is you'll have some higher precipitation rates. So if you can get a good overlapping, it could be a nice little surprise for a couple of you, but that window is shrinking. Okay, so here's a look at the system now. And Louisville and across central Kentucky, it's dry, no problems whatsoever. It's not moving in across areas of St. Louis. Let me back up the scope there. A couple things with this. There is two different this is a set that involves two different pieces that we move in through the Ohio Valley, kind of connecting or phasing together. One piece of this is really your main feed of moisture with a good southwest wind that is now pushing into the St. Louis area. Then you have your cold air advection on the deformation zone, which is on the backside here of the low. And that's where you get that more of an arrowhead looking to the actual presentation of the snow band across Missouri and Illinois, where it is indeed reaching the ground. Now, this is where's Wayne Little? Are you in here, Wayne? Oh, you are in here, Wayne. Hi, Wayne. This is what Wayne always loves when we talk about this. But because there is a interacting part of two pieces, there will be likely a gap. They may briefly try to form at times. I don't think it's going to hold entirely because they do congeal together, but it wouldn't surprise me that gap could break up a bit on some of these snowfall maps as the system rolls to the east. Only because these are a little more convective snow showers moving in. But I'm telling you, if you really, there's two things to this. If you want to be in a decent, more even banding of snowfall, your deformation zone and your banding features are going to be found there in Missouri into Illinois and Indiana. Those are decent. Don't get me wrong. But when you're also right on the edge of where the rain feeds into this, then you can get some fairly heavy snowfall and big giant flakes coming down. It's a very wet snow, but you can get some little bonus amounts right on the edge of that rain snow line, especially if you get thunderstorms that may try to form on the southern side of this today. Thunderstorms that feed into cold air, feed into snow, usually can be impressive sometimes when that happens. Now, so far, it is quiet. This is mainly all snow or nothing so far on the radar, but that will change as the freezing line has jumped up. As you can see in the past couple scans, it was right along the Ohio River. Then there it goes up to the north is where the actual freezing line is at the moment, and back to the west as well. So it will linger north of us until we get into this evening and we get the cold air advection to reverse the wind flow, even at the surface. And that's likely where it will happen. That's when we'll have a chance to get this to snow. You got to look at the atmosphere in layers today. I wish I had a graphic that I was going to show to illustrate this, but when we get to the point of snow, we're going to have a constant southwest wind just a mile or so up above our head that is going to be flying in. That is our moisture feed coming in. That's what's giving it its life. You need that. All right. You need that. It's a warm wind, but it is there. We call that the warm nose many times and talk about it on social media. But that warm nose is there. But the wind at the lower layers of the atmosphere is going to be switching around to a northeast component as we head into the snow event this evening. So you've got that northeast wind pulling in cold air. You've got the warm southwest wind flying overhead. They're crossing over each other to where you have moisture. All right. Now you're getting saturation, the point where you can generate snowflakes, and they fall into the air that is actually colder because of that northeast wind. The snowflake survives. That's how you get snow in a warm weather period that we're in right now. That's how you get it. And if it can snow hard enough, if it's got enough moisture to allow that, or enough lift in general, you can overcome the warm ground and you get an accumulating snowfall. If you get a southwest wind in all layers, it's rain, all rain. But you don't want that warm southwest nose, if you will, to be too strong, or it can cause not only the raindrop or the snowflake to melt if it's too thick of a layer, or in some cases you can actually get sleet to get involved, and that will cut down on a snow forecast. So it is complex on the layers of the atmosphere. We show you everything in a 2D type of way with storm systems, looking at the radar. You look at that on your phone, you look at it on TV. We show you the flat version, right? But you got to think of the weather on the three-dimensional side of how this is working underneath where we're standing at and looking straight up. There's a lot of processes happening there in that layer, and that's where problems come into play. Because if one of those layers is off in expectation, the end result will also be off. Okay, enough of that lesson today, but I want to at least explain it. All right, the snow reports are coming in across Missouri and into Illinois. Got a feeling we'll see more of that. The winter weather advisories are out. You notice they have an arc to them, moving through the Louisville area, eastern Kentucky. Then it's a new low actually take over here, and that's the reason why it's more of a winter storm scenario. So we get the higher elevations. Classic setup there for a bigger snow. It arcs in our area just because of daytime timing. Much of this is moving through the max heating of the day today. And as you saw on the radar, there's not much on there that's snow. Most of us is kind of a broken area of showers and a few little clumps of showers, and then all your snow is up here, right? So there's not much to be said about the southern piece, so that's why there is no winter weather advisory there. So why is it showing up in Louisville? The reason for that is the system itself is actually diving more southeast, so it'll collapse. That'll allow that cold air to collapse to the southeast, and that's the reason why we should get our snow right into our backyards for the evening window. It's not going to last very long, guys. Not long at all. Sorry, I just realized my shoe is untied. That's a bad sign, right? I mean, it's a bad sign you're going to trip, but still, hope it's not an omen for bad weather. Anyway, here's your winter weather advisory. Includes Louisville. Starts in about 2 hours. I don't know if we'll see much in 2 hours. More so like 3, 4 o'clock, maybe a little later for Louisville. But either way, that's the advisory start time. It ends at 1 a.m. to cover some of the icy patches in the overnight. Your question you're going to ask, if you haven't asked already, is it going to be extended more south and east? Or is there going to be an upgrade? Okay, a couple things. On the extension part, yes, it is possible. There could be an extension that could take it a little more to the south if the colder air does rush in fast enough and there's enough rain or moisture around to be changed to snow, then yes, there could be certainly a last minute extension, only because of timing too, because by the time it gets to the back side of the system at that point into Kentucky, you're also getting colder. You're getting down into the freezing mark, if not lower. So there could be a last minute decision there. We don't make that decision, Weather Service does, but they've already been thinking about the entire idea of how this is going to look. And this is certainly something that's on their mind. We just don't have enough support yet to see a trend that would shift it south of Bullitt County or even Spencer County. Okay. So to explain that, is there going to be an upgrade to a warning level? It's going to be so spotty on anything that can get over 4 inches. And that's going to be very tough to do because most of your moisture or the QPF is really on the southern side of this. It's only about 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch, maybe 1/3 on the northern side. So there's not as much moisture north than there is south, but it is colder north. Therefore, you get a little bit more bang for your buck. Slightly better snow ratios too to help you out. So that's why snow confidence is higher there, but it's much lower to the south. Okay, so let me show you the future cast. It has rain in here. I probably went too fast on that. Sorry. Rain in here by the time we get into the 4 to 5 o'clock window. The rain and snow line, once again, a classic slanted scenario. All right, southwest to northeast slant. So if you are in North Vernon, you are in Seymour, Bedford, Indiana, into Jasper and Du Bois area, you will likely see the changeover to either sleet or snow by this point. By 4 to 5 o'clock, you should already see wintry weather. And in fact, it may even arrive already as snow. I don't know if you'll have a changeover. Consider your numbers right now in the lower 30s and you're overcast. I don't think you're going to warm very much today, guys. So you may start right out of the gate with snow. Just our top 3 counties to the north there looks to be most likely. You get south of that line, then you're likely going to have some kind of a mix to start with, whether it's rain, sleet, and or snow. Salem, Jasper, Cordon into Madison, maybe Carrollton, same ordeal. There is a bit of dry air, so there may be a bit of what we call virga, a bit of dry air initially, but the air will saturate, and that will allow it then to get to the ground. But again, all these numbers I'm listing are above freezing. And so anything that falls is either going to melt on contact, or if it snows hard enough, it will just stick to the roof, the deck, your patio furniture, the car, you name it. If it snows even harder than that, then it can cause slush on the roads to take place. But through 5:30 p.m., roads mainly just wet. In Louisville, we will begin the rain at that point. It may be rain, and by the looks of things, probably rain and sleet mixed in. So you may hear some of the ice pellets in your windshield if you're driving around town. But again, we are not expecting any travel issues with that other than just wet roads that will take place. But you want that sort of evaporation to happen, though. You want that virga to happen because that cools the air column down and starts to take the air temperature and accelerates it downward. So you actually want that if you want us to get into a little more of a snow situation faster. So having virga is not a bad thing, not a bad thing at all. You just don't want too much of it or eat away at all the moisture. It's like having the Cookie Monster as your friend here on this. It's like, fine, have some cookies. Don't eat all of them, though. And then don't eat all of them too fast, kind of thing. So that's what we'll be facing for southern Indiana into Louisville this afternoon between now and 5:30. Again, wintry weather to the far north will start probably out of the gate here very soon. You get into southern Indiana and around Louisville, it'll likely be a rain and or sleet mixed combination with no travel issues at that point. So southern Kentucky, you may just be mainly dry. You could have a few areas of showers popping in, but dry air will still be working over in your region. And again, you're getting some hints of sun in that area right now. So you have a chance to get to 50, maybe even a bit higher, which only just locks in on the idea going to be rain to start with. So let's advance the clock. Now we're at 6:30. Already at 6:30, just 1 hour later, things start to change on us. We've got some of the banding features of snow. This is if this is the hurry, if this is right, I mean, this is decent snowfall rates kicking in there across Bedford into Salem, now going over to all snow. And now we're getting more of a constant feed of sleet, more than likely, and more than rain into the metro. I'm not sure all the way into Jefferson County, but in the metro at least, and certainly in southern Indiana, that mix will continue, but should be solidly into the snow zone with it starting now at that will be at sunset at this point. So you will start to see it stick to your driveway, your sidewalk, if it's snowing hard enough. And perhaps even on some of the side roads, we may start to see a little bit of that slush start to develop. Kentucky, still rain in Kentucky. Okay, so let's advance it. Here we are at 8:30. This all happens fast. That's why I'm going slow. 8:30. We're now, I don't know if we'll be at 32 in Louisville. This may be too aggressive, but maybe close. But at this point, snow sticking to sidewalks, houses, cars, untreated roads, and even main roads may start to develop some slush on them. This is easy to treat with salt, FYI. It'll work great on the areas. It's tough to apply if the rain is falling beforehand because it just washes off. But in this case, in Indiana, it should be snow or nothing, so the salt may do well. In Louisville, they may have to wait a second, then start getting salt on the roads to try to get it to work without it washing off the roadway there. But this overall is, it's a decent snow, but this is not a crippling snow here we're looking at. You're getting your mix now involved in our Kentucky counties for the first time of the day, happening at 6 to 8:30, roughly Shelby County, Bardstown, E-Town. Yeah, those of you in Litchfield to the south and west, you may be in that separation section, if you will, of the deformation zone and that moisture feed of rain and thunder pushing into southern Kentucky. So this is where you're likely going to see everything just stop. You may not have anything falling at 8:30 at night. All right, so that we need to watch and see where that gap plays out. That's 8:30. Now let me advance it again. Now we are at 9:30. Hasn't changed a whole lot, except now we're starting to see the cold air catching up into southern Kentucky. So you guys are about to start now the second phase for you, which will be a sleet and snow combination. Snow continues in Louisville. Snow continues for far southern Indiana, Bedford, Indiana. Snow is over. You're done with this. By the time we get really to the 9 o'clock hour, you're done. While the snow will continue to fall across Kentucky. Where you see the darker blues, can't stress enough. If you want the snow to stick and stay on the ground, you've got to see these darker blues and these banding features show up. If it goes to a light snow, even if you were to get a burst and it coats your driveway, it coats your deck, and you hurry up and you're excited, you grab the kids, you grab the family dog, you grab the family hamster, and you get the camera and you go out and take a picture of it, and then suddenly it's already starting to go away and melt. That's the problem in these scenarios when you have a warm ground trying to warm things up. The melting process, if it's not snowing hard enough and hasn't gotten cold yet, at least below 32, it's right at 32 is not enough. It's going to be below that. Then you will have some melting nearly instantly. All right, so let's hope we can get that temperature down enough to where hold the snow on the ground for a bit. Then we get into the late evening window. 11 o'clock, snow's over in Louisville. Indiana, it's done. Our southern county, southeast counties now getting on the action of the mix going over to light snow. Again, with it being light snow, the heavier rates are now east of you. So now you run into a problem of getting the snow rate to get higher to stick. And then with it being lighter, it'll be much more of a challenge to cause any problems out there. Now, this is going to be a wet snow. The one in January was a dry snow. You couldn't make a snowball with it. You couldn't make a snow angel. You couldn't play in it. You can go really sliding in it. It's very powdery, easy to get rid of with a broom. Sweep, it's gone. This is a wet snow. This sticks to everything. The trees, the bushes. It's a very pretty snow when it falls. And as this takes place, there's going to be a lot of people who probably want to go sledding until they understand that. And that may be busy tonight. Going sledding on the hills are probably going to be a little busy out there. Please use caution if you're going to do that, though, because as you're going there, the roads probably be just wet or slushy. And that's great. You can have fun. But when you're leaving, temperatures are actually going to keep dropping to where we're going to get into the 20s. And then things start to freeze up. There was just wet roads at one point when you're arriving, now are frozen over, or your car door is frozen. So just prepare for a more of a freezing scenario as you get into late evening. So if you're going to go do some sledding, I don't discourage you that. And I hope you get the snow. Let's get that out of the way first. Let's get the snow. I don't want to jinx it too much. Everyone's got last Monday in their mind and is not forgetting that. So let's hope we get the snow part first. All right. And I think we will. All right. But the second piece of that is just enjoyed early enough to where you have to deal with the icy roads later. And then we get into the overnight. The clouds will begin to break up, and then we'll get into temperatures into the mid-20s by the time we get into early in the day. Again, watch out for slick spots, icy patches, side roads, bridges, overpasses. If you're venturing out third shift early in the day, be mindful of that. And tomorrow we'll get some sun, but the problem is tomorrow is going to be a cloudy or a cold day. Temperatures barely above freezing in the 30s all day. Here are the ensembles from the GFS. I like what they're showing. Look at that. Nearly all of them are aiming on the snow for the Ohio River area north. Certainly, they love Indiana, southern Indiana. Just about every single member of the GFS is showing southern Indiana love. So confidence is high on Indiana. It's a little more iffy over Kentucky, right? This is looking at the GFS ensembles as far as a numerical form of what you just saw. And the average, you may not see the left, I'm not sure if you can, but it's an average of about 2 inches is what it's showing for Louisville. The range is roughly a 1 to 4 range, but notice a lot of the modeling is right there at about 2, maybe a hair above that. Notice we don't have any in the 0, so they all at least say something is going to fall. That's good. But they also don't go to 15 inches. All right, so this is not an overachiever, heavy snow. Woke up the next day, it's 1994 kind of setup. All right, it's got its limits. I think a winter weather advisory is perfect for this. And again, a couple of inches of snow. And some of that, I mean, the model reads it that way, but some of that can certainly, you don't use my name, sorry. Some can be a melting process there. So maybe take off maybe a half inch or so for melting on that too. Pavement temperatures in the 40s. That's important. That's important. Absolutely. That's why the main roads will do fairly well for a while until late tonight. Side roads, elevated roads, roads that do not have dirt underneath them, a little more at risk for an icy setup. All right, here are the different model projections. We've got the NAM, got the graph, the HERB, GFS, and the Euro. All, again, showing Indiana love. They're a little more iffy on the I-64 corridor around Louisville. Some like Louisville, some a little more north of the city. The heat island effect, everyone's worried about that. I get that. Each study we have here, or each snow event, is becoming a case study on how that evolves for the system. So what do we think? Well, this is our snow map. Going to go with a 2 to 4, and this may be more of a 2.1, 2.2, something like that. Maybe a 2.5 that could fall Orange County into Jefferson County, Indiana. I think 1 to about a 1.8, 1.9, something like that is going to be very common near the Ohio River. And you know what? We'll throw Louisville in the mix on that one. And then I do think Central Kentucky, there is a risk here. There is absolute risk not only to get gapped between the two, or that by the time the cold air arrives, you don't have a lot of moisture to work with. I will at least allow for a small bump upward here on temperature on the eastern side of Washington, Marion, Taylor County, and Adair, to see whether or not we may have to pull that back again this evening. Right now, we moved it back to the east. But that is the part I'm a little more uncertain on. A lot of low confidence on that side. Higher confidence here. Higher confidence for Indiana and I-64 for that to take place. Oops, sorry, I got ahead of myself. All right, everyone, type 478. 478, if you're good. 478. Thank you, Tawana. Shout out to the family hamster. Never forget the family hamster. Jason, do you think that the snow overachieved in 1 to 2? Not really, because overachieving usually 2 different ways you can get overachieving. There's more than 2, but 2 is the main that I'm going to mention here. One is snow ratio ends up being higher than expected with an Arctic air blast coming into play. You get more bang for your buck. We do not have an Arctic blast. So this is marginally cold air to work with. So therefore, the ratios are pretty locked in. The other way you can get overachieving is if you get heavier rainfall rates right on the edge of that setup there of rain and snow, where you get some heavy snowfall. They can occur with a higher content of moisture, if that makes sense. I should mention in the areas to the north, you can get overachieving in one more additional way, and that is what we call banding. If you hear us talk about a banding feature on the radar, and we're showing a streak of the darker blue, and we're saying there's a heavier band that is formed, those bands, we saw one, I remember clearly, in March of 2018. I was out in the weather garden. I remember the snow being stuck to my eyelashes, but We got 11 inches out of that one, but it was a north-south convective band. The backside of the low and the north-south band got stuck over us. That's how we got overachieving. These bands will be a little more tilted, and they will be progressing. So there could be some localized enhancements with them. Don't get me wrong, but I think we're already accounting for that in the 2 to 4. So good question. I hope I answered it. 478, 478. All right, everyone's good. Real quick update on, we're going to have all these maps on midday and on the noon show as well, so you're not missing anything. Looking after this, we do have a system later next week that I'll talk about after we get past today, so probably Monday before I can get to it. But even just beyond that, we do have a warm pattern that does come into play for the end portion here of February. And the severe potential is starting to show up in the southeast corner of the country. I do like what the CSU is doing here because the pattern would fit some severe weather, an organized system capable of severe weather in the region. That will be toward the end again of February, toward the end of next week. Watching it carefully. Just want to give you a big heads up. That'll be a topic that we'll discuss in later times. The new Euro long term came up. Not a lot of forecasters are excited about it. They don't buy it. They want warm and say winter's over. I don't agree. Never say that around here or this time of year, especially the way this year's going. Never say that. But the EPO has been winning on always bringing in warm flows of air. It just floods the Pacific air right into the lower 48. We get into a warmer pattern. It's happened this season many times. So I like the EPO being in charge. I like that. And sure enough, it does show that surge right at the time when we could get that severe potential. But then it takes it back down and weakens it as we head into March, again, allowing for maybe some colder air that may try to get involved. All right, that's enough for it for today, guys. I can barely even talk, and I just started. So I'll have more come up on midday and noon. New models are coming in right now. So it's going to be an ever-changing day. We need your reports. Send in your snow videos, your snow pictures. Don't send them on social media. We're not going to see them in time. Send them on the Wave Weather app. There's a Submit Your Photos button that is on there, easy to fill out. And we get notified when you do that. So please do it and be as descriptive as you can, and make sure to hold your video sideways as well. All right. Love you guys. See you soon.